Good afternoon. I am extremely excited to be here today to talk about Freedom, the LCS class of ships, the state-of-the-art newest class of ships that we have in the United States Navy. First, I want to tell you a little bit about myself so you know who I am. Growing up in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, I like the typical things: football, baseball, bike racing, tennis, etc. However, my true love was with the ocean. Growing up, my best memories revolve around lobster diving, fishing, and more importantly, driving our boat fast through the tight channels of the Florida Keys. Well, it's a tremendous amount of fun. So early on, and even before I knew it, a Navy career was meant to be. The Navy must have seen the desire because they offered me a full scholarship to Georgia Tech to study mechanical engineering. Between earning my commission and assuming command of USS Freedom, I've been fortunate enough to serve on 4 other warships. My first ship was USS Philippine Sea out of Jacksonville, Florida. Did a tour on a frigate, a fast frigate, USS Jared out of San Diego, and the 2 carriers, Nimitz and Truman. I've moved 17 times in 17 years and lived all over the United States. Navy's been good to me. These ships had their fair share of ups and downs. Been able to experience 32 different nations. More importantly, it took the young man that I was and molded me into the officer that I am today. That leads us to Freedom. I checked on board Freedom in April of 2009 as the executive officer. In July of this year, during the Rim of the Pacific 2010 exercise, the largest maritime military exercise in the world, I assumed command. On a personal note, I have a beautiful wife of 15 years. I have 4 wonderful children. Without their support, my Navy career would not have been assured nor nearly as rewarding. I appreciate their sacrifice, as I appreciate the sacrifice of all the spouses, all the kids, all the significant others, parents, siblings. I see a good many of you out there. From the bottom of my heart, from me to you, thank you. You deserve a credit for the role you have in our national security. Let's talk about LCS, Littoral Combat Ships. The program itself, genesis, is post 9/11, where there's a new threat. It's developing along the littorals, the coastal and shallow water regions of the world. The Navy set out to build were fast, maneuverable, shallow draft, and extremely adaptable warships. And they succeeded. In 2002, the LCS program was just a note on the back of a napkin. 8 years later, we successfully deployed Freedom. It may seem like a trivial matter, but in the realm of shipbuilding and production, it's beyond comprehension. Out the door, our mission was to counter mine threats, diesel-electric submarines, and fast attack craft. Fast attack craft being speedboats with essentially machine guns, RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades, Stinger missiles, explosives, IEDs, vehicle-borne IEDs, etc. And they succeeded. Freedom and our sister ship Independence, which I'll talk about later, we're meeting all the requirements, or well on our way to doing so, and so much more. Let's talk about my ship, USS Freedom. It is by far the #1 ship in the Navy. But you don't have to take my word for it. I may be a bit biased. You can't see it right here, but there's a 1 on the side of the hull. So if there's any confusion, just come look at my ship. #1, okay? So the best ship in the Navy. Again, a napkin, back of a napkin in 2002, successfully deployed 8 years later. So we really compressed the timeline. I have so many great stories to tell you, but I've only got 18 minutes, and I keep whittling down my speech. So now we're into an 18-minute speech, so I'm just going to tell you a couple stories. First story is, imagine yourself on a ship, and there's a bunch of ill-intentioned bad guys out there, and 10 30-foot speedboats, and they're running in at you from all different directions at 50 knots, or 60 miles per hour, so pretty fast. I'm just sitting on the bridge. I'm actually driving the ship, and I'm smiling from ear to ear. It's an exercise, of course, but still, it felt real. We're running in at them, as the secretary said, with a 35-foot rooster tail behind us. I mean, the flight deck's 22 feet. I'm 6 feet. It's a couple feet over my head. Big rooster tail. 15-foot wake on either side. We're bringing the fight to them. We engage them with our rapid-fire guns, 220 rounds a minute, 200 rounds a minute. Future, we'll have missiles. And we also throw a 15-foot wall of water at them as we're maneuvering around. You get a 30-foot speedboat 8 to 10 feet out of the water. It looks like a lot of fun, but I don't think they thought so much. Freedom is meeting its demands. Now, moving on. A decision was made to deploy an LCS, USS Freedom, early. So we took us out of our test phase and sent us down to the Caribbean and Fourth Fleet's area of responsibility to conduct what we call narcotics ops, or counter-narcotics ops. Freedom had 4 major drug busts in a little over 3 weeks. What makes this a little bit different from the typical Navy ship going down there and having success, which is usual, is that this ship right here actually ran down the go-fast speedboats. So imagine this, a sport utility vehicle and a Corvette. And a sport utility vehicle actually catches up to the Corvette. Well, I'll tell you, the drug runners had not thought of that. When we hauled them, let's see. When we hauled them off their boat, they were dumbfounded. They're like, how can a 3,300-ton warship walk down my speedboat with 3 big outboards hanging off the back? Well, the reason is we're really fast. So what I want you to take away from this, though, is we got 4 major drug busts, $100 million worth of narcotics. That is $100 million of drugs that won't be on American streets. Not bad for 3 weeks' work. You combine a super fast 400-foot warship, state-of-the-art unmanned and manned helicopters, 50-mile-per-hour jet boats, and the rapid-fire guns. The LCS platform is possibly the best counter-narcotics platform ever conceived. And that's just an extra mission that it can do, by the way. Rim of the Pacific exercise. I mentioned this earlier. This is where I took command at the end of the Rim of the Pacific exercise. There we are. It's in Hawaii. It's terrible. But great vacation. But it was a working vacation, trust me. Whether we were doing combined boardings with the Japanese and the South Koreans, or we were chasing down small boats off the coast of Hawaii in the shallow waters at night, or even probably my most memorable memory is we were tasked to go chase down these pirates, and the Australian Navy went with us, and it's always fun to work with the Aussies. But they had a big head start on us. We ran them down. We passed them because, again, we're fast. We caught up to the pirates, and again, you got a 15-foot wake, and you got a whole lot of other things that can really disrupt them. Good mission. We'll call it a success because it was a resounding success. Big smiles all around. RIMPAC 2010 validated that Freedom is relevant and is ready for real-world mission tasking, and there's so much more. Our sister ship is USS Independence. Indy, as we like to call her, is fast, shallow draft, highly maneuverable, and highly adaptable, just like Freedom. Soon to be stationed in San Diego with us. She's 417 feet long, 100 feet wide, impressive and unmistakable. We really do look forward to Independence getting over to San Diego. She can follow in our wake any day. All right, so there's another couple pictures of her. And that's just a little healthy competition amongst the LCSCOs. Let's talk about our sailors and how we man these ships. Each ship, Independence and Freedom, have 2 crews, blue and a gold crew, of 40 sailors each. We call that the core crew. We rotate every 4 months. For example, I turned over to Commander Randy Gardner and his crew in August, and I take it back in a couple weeks in December. So we rotate every 4 months. In addition to the core crew, we have 15 personnel that support what's called a mission package, and I'll get to that in a minute. But they take care of their gear. And then 23 personnel that come with the aviation detachment, so they've got their manned and unmanned helicopters. So 78 total. 78 total routinely deploy on Freedom and Independence at any given time. So what's the big deal? Well, that 78 total is well less than half of what a typical complement is on a warship. So again, let's talk about what makes Freedom different, a game changer. Well, we have what's called mission packages, and we can swap those out relatively quickly. So you're thinking, okay, what's a mission package and why do I care? Well, think of a mission package as peripherals, USB-type peripherals for your computer, mice, keyboards, printers. Let's say you get tired of your printer because it's just not meeting the mission set anymore. Well, you go buy a new printer and plug it in, right? Same thing for us. We can swap these out. Matter of fact, you pack up their gear, their guns, their unmanned vehicles, whatever, put it on a C-17, fly it out to wherever the ship might be. It could be in Singapore, or Bahrain, or whatever. Pull the ship alongside, crane the old stuff off, crane the new stuff in, jack it into the hull using open architecture, swap out those 15 personnel, and you have a newly missioned warship. We just tried this and successfully did it in less than 96 hours. That's not bad considering you just made a new kind of warship in 96 hours. Both Freedom and Independence are capable of hosting the Surface Warfare Mission Package. The Surface Warfare Mission Package, again, is to counter the fast attack craft. The Anti-Submarine Warfare Mission Package counters the growing threat that we have of diesel-electric submarines. And the Mine Warfare Mission Package, which, by definition, is set to counter the mines. Our national security is contingent on us being able to meet threats of the enemy, current and future. These are just kind of a bunch of areas where we're actually engaged with. Modularity and open architecture allow us to efficiently and effectively update our mission packages to adapt our combat capability. So that takes care of the missions that we are and threats that we are actually engaged with now and know of. Where modularity and open architecture really shine is when you start talking about threats we have not yet anticipated. So rather than having to go build a new warship or a new class of warships to counter that threat, you build a mission package. Take that mission package, which can be built at a fraction of the cost, at a fraction of the time, and deploy it on a plug-and-play ready ship like the LCS. That's a pretty big enabler. Take modularity to the next iterative step. I believe, Jim Edwards believes, that we should build our future warships with modularity in mind. Build a larger warship that can house 3 or 4 of these, or 10. Having extra USB peripherals on a computer has shown merit. Why not warships? Let's talk about the sailors, because this is really, truly the important thing that I really want to get by on. A ship the size of a Navy frigate with a fraction of the crew requires enablers to get its missions accomplished. Most of those enablers are technology-driven, but some are done with what we call hybridization and multi-skilling of sailors. Quite simply, that means I'm taking my sailors and I'm training them to be jack of many trades and continuing to be masters of one. My sailors will have their main job that they've been trained to do, many other main jobs that they would not have done if they had not come to an LCS, and they're put in leadership positions and evolutions that would typically have officers, senior officers, that they'd have some positional authority over. It's not uncommon for a junior sailor to have positional authority over an officer in an evolution. Talk about motivation and job satisfaction. When my sailors know that their voice is going to be heard and respected, they flat out perform. Let's talk about my supply officer, just a random sailor off my ship. Well, not random because I picked him. He's doing the job of a specialist, a supply corps lieutenant. That in itself would be commendable, but there's so much more. He's launching the 35-foot, 50-knot jet boats out the back of the ship. He's the leader in charge of that. He loads ammo. He's got leadership positions on our damage control teams. He leads our underway replenishment team. He launches our manned and unmanned helicopters. Many of these things are done by officers or very specific specialized personnel. This is a supply corps chief. And he's not uncommon. Matter of fact, he's the standard hybrid sailor. That's what we do on Freedom. That's what we do in the LCS program. In my 17 years, I've witnessed efficiencies that I had not witnessed prior. From myself to my most junior petty officer, we do many of the same routine functions. Whether it's cleaning the bulkheads and decks, the walls and the floors, side by side, serving myself in line for food, washing my own dishes, we do things a bit different. Working right next to, in and around my sailors, I get a better assessment of their operational tasking ability and their state of mind at any given time. So that professional assessment allows me to figure out how they're going to perform at their job, maybe just a little bit better. I can tell you that our job is very difficult. is very arduous, but the sailors, they typically have that right there. Their job satisfaction and motivation is extremely high, and I'm proud of that. Let's talk about the technology enabler, and I'll just give you one story on this. Freedom was the first ship to be exclusively certified on electronic navigation. So this is taking sailors and substituting them with a computer. Meaning, electronic navigation, we don't use paper charts. A paper chart being like a map. Instead, we use what we call Voyage Management System. Think of Voyage Management System, VMS, as GPS. Like the GPS in your car, we use it to navigate with, figure out where we're at, and etc. But even better, we can overlay data. So if we've got radar picture, we can figure out where that is. So we know that we can trust this GPS. More importantly, it gives us time, right now data. Freedom does over 40 knots. At 40 knots, Freedom covers 22 yards a second. That's 12 football fields a minute. Even the best 6 to 10 man plotting team takes 15 to 30 seconds to figure out where you're at. I can't afford that time. I'm operating in shallow water. There are rocks and shoals. I got to know where I'm at right then. I can honestly say that we could not go where we go without it. There's another picture. So again, think of it as kind of the GPS for your car. Our sailors, like this individual right here, he's doing the job of 3 or 4 people. Technology has enabled us to do that. If I had more time, I'd expound upon it, but I don't. I can tell you, though, that the sailors have an enormous amount of trust and responsibility placed into them. And it routinely results in excellence and typically results in that smile that I mentioned. The takeaway that I want you to have for today, though, is that modularity and open architecture allow for iterative optimization and allow us to rapidly meet emerging threats. Freedom is meeting today's demands and be ready for tomorrow's tasking today. More importantly, that the LCS sailors are at the tip of the evolutionary spear and performing well above expectations, forging down paths that are untried and unknown, and our charter is to explore all possibilities and build roads for others to follow. I am proud to be an LCS captain. I am proud to work shoulder to shoulder with my sailors. A predecessor of mine once said, I can't agree more. I am no longer surprised by what a U.S. Navy sailor can do. I am amazed. It has been a rare privilege to be able to explore this LCS story with you. I wish you fair winds and following seas.